Hi, and thanks for joining. So, my name is Rebecca Sun and Kallaus here with Business Done Better, and today is day 2 of our 3-part series. And today we're going to cover everything about the basics of operations. So, what is operations? Most people have no idea what operations really is. There's all sorts of preconceived notions. So we're going to run through some of those today, but we're going to run through how to build an operating system that scales without you being everywhere in your business. So we're going to run through a short presentation, about 15 minutes, and then we're going to provide an actionable hot seat prompt at the end and then open it up for Q&A. So what most people think operations is consists of things like your tech stack, your SOPs, and what is an operating system though? So we're going to run over the technical definition in a second, but some signs to know that you don't have an operating system are if you as the founder, you're giving every directive, and that if it doesn't come for you, it doesn't happen at all. Or you or others on your team find yourself saying things like, where is this file? What was the title of that? What's the status of this? Did so-and-so work on that project? Who's responsible for this? Who do I hand this off to? Or what are the expectations here? So your team needs constant hand-holding. You don't have an SOP for SOPs. That's the most important SOP that you could possibly have. You have an unclear role descriptions or none at all. And you don't have regular review processes for your team. You don't do quarterly reviews, for example. And then you can't step away for at least 5 days without things breaking. So why most founders stay stuck? They're still making too many decisions. Everyone reports to you. Nothing works without your input, which means you are too in the weeds to see how to extract yourself from those weeds. So going back to an operating system, what is a business operating system? It's a practical framework of methods and practices that help you manage your business effectively, align your team, and consistently move towards your business goals. It is not software, but it does include how you use your optimal tech stack. Okay, so what does scaling look like with versus without an operating system? Without it, the founder's the bottleneck, the team's confused, the vision lives in your head, and you usually stay stuck at 7 figures. Now, there might be some people like, I love to get to 7 figures. Great. Well, that's something that you're much more likely to be able to scale the more you have an operating system. Otherwise, you just have to be really good at the front end of business. But one way or another, you're going to get stuck at most in that 7-figure range and maybe low 8s if you're lucky. And otherwise, you need to have an operating system in order to scale to your business's full potential, as well as to allow you to have a life that you always wanted when you started a business. So, with an operating system, founder is the visionary. You're the ship captain. Your team feels empowered. Direction lives in systems, not within certain people. And you're infinitely scalable. Everything gets to be unlocked. Okay, so that's something that you want to be able to have your business not be reliant on any person, including you as the founder. So other common operating systems, so EOS is, if anyone's heard of an operating system, usually it's EOS. Otherwise, most people haven't heard of any at all. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. There's a book called Traction, and that's usually what people read when they're learning about EOS. There's a whole bunch more behind that door. There's also Empire, created by Eddie Wilson, Scaling Up, McKinsey 72, Safe, and Dare OS. There's a few others as well. So there's different elements of these that are all, they have good things to them, but that's something that I took a deep dive into all of these and realized that I was looking for one operating system that was truly scalable from solopreneur to enterprise and industry agnostic, as well as an operating system that was diagnostic, meaning that it tells you what's weak in your business, why, and what to do about it. So on that journey, I realized that there really wasn't something that entailed all of those things. So I created it. I call it the 5-engine operating system. Everything in your business wraps up into 5 engines: revenue, brand, client experience, operations, and leadership. So there's a lot more entailed to that, but in short, all 5 of those engines each have 5 drivers that operate in a flywheel manner that drive the success of each engine. So under revenue, you have offer development, lead generation, sales process, revenue analytics, revenue expansion. Revenue, I always say first because you need to know how you're making money before you can do anything else with your business. Otherwise, you just have a good idea, but you need to have more structure around the actual revenue process. So your offer development and your sales process are critical there. So next you have brand. So once you have how you're making money, then brand expands that. Okay, so your drivers underneath brand are positioning, content, assets, credibility, and audience. Okay, you need to expand your brand. Otherwise, you're just constantly having to go fishing every single day with your sales. Next is your client experience. Without clients, you don't have a business. So once you have revenue and brand starting to kind of move, client experience, you need to make sure that your clients are just having a quality and repeatable, amazing experience in order to be scaling your business. So the drivers here are your deliverables. What is it that you're actually doing for your clients? Sweet products or programs, that could look like anything. What's the deliverable? Your client activation, your onboarding process, and then your fulfillment is next. Relationship management, issue resolution. Okay, so everything that entails with client experience. Next is your operations. So this is where, it's something that you cannot scale fully unless you have true operations. So your drivers here are process, infrastructure, team efficiency, resource management, and risk management. Okay, so all of these things wrap up into operations. The simple way that I like to put it is people, process, platform. So platform meaning your tech stack. So, but all the drivers here are a little bit more specific and all encompassing of everything that's truly in operations. Leadership is the last engine. So the drivers here are vision forward. Where are you going as a business? People and culture, organizational design, governance, and greater impact. So I'm going to run through each of these briefly here just to go a little bit more in depth. So each engine also has a governing law. So that's just one short actionable sentence that says this is the one thing that that engine needs to focus on for success. So one thing that I also want to mention at this stage is that how this operating system works is that you have one person who runs each engine. So that's something that when you're first starting out as a business owner, you're a solopreneur, maybe you're completely by yourself, maybe you just have one other person working with you. If that's the case, then you own all 5 of your engines. As you grow, you continue to add more people onto your team. That's something that as soon as you have one key person to be leading each engine, the better off you're going to be. So it's okay if it's not the perfect person initially. It's something that even if you have somebody who's good enough to handle some elements of that engine, you can still delegate certain components to them. Then you're taking some pieces off of your plate. So that way you can kind of share that load and you're starting to, as the saying goes, you get the rocks out of your own backpack. Because as a founder, you're carrying all the rocks in your backpack and you need to make sure that you're delegating appropriately as you continue to grow. So the governing law for the revenue engine is stack revenue drivers until profitable growth becomes unstoppable. So a handful of this is Alex Hormozi inspired. So we have our predictable outcomes here. So remember I mentioned that all the drivers operate in a flywheel manner. So flywheel meaning that the more you grow each driver, the more it expands upon and continues to give momentum to the other drivers that are in the engine. So your predictable outcomes here are predictable offers, create predictable leads generated, creating predictable sales conversions, creating predictable financial forecasting, creating predictable revenue collected. So if your revenue feels inconsistent, look at your client journey. But in short, your revenue engine is your business oxygen. Without this, you suffocate as a business. So your revenue engine check here, so just a couple questions to help you assess how healthy this engine is do you have a clear offer that your audience can easily repeat? So when you're out at a networking event and people are asked about who you are and what does your business do, that those people without any help from you, they're able to easily answer that question. Do you know your client acquisition cost, otherwise known as your CAC? So client acquisition cost is what CAC stands for. And do you have predictable cash flow forecasting? Next engine is the brand engine. So this is how the market sees you. The governing law here is build trust so your authority pulls the market towards you. So it's the magnetism where that way you're not having to go pursue sales, that people who are interested, who are the correct target audience for your ICP or ideal client profile, that those people are coming to you without you having to go and pursue them. So this is what you need to focus on to grow the front end of your business. So the predictable outcomes here are predictable market positioning, predictable content output, predictable asset development, predictable credibility growth, predictable audience growth. Positioning is your authority, which equals your trust. So your reputation is your multiplier. So I want to talk about positioning for just a second because this is something that I see being skipped oftentimes with companies, ourselves included initially. That was something that before we found our CMO, there was so many different marketing people that I spoke with, and not a single one of them ever discussed our positioning, which was why we weren't getting anywhere with our marketing as a business. So your positioning is what is the language? How are you seen by the market? What is understood? What do you want people to understand by what you do? So just understanding that positioning and orienting that properly can make a world of a difference for the front end of your business. For us, for example, we do a handful of different things. We have execution work. We have operational consulting. We have our CRM system. We do staffing. So there's all these different components of our business. And for the first couple of years, it was difficult I didn't know how to do that because marketing was not my strength of, okay, cool. Like how do yes, we do all of those things under the branch of Business Done Better. Business Done Better is the parent company. So we have all these different offers. But who really are we? Are we a CRM software company? Do we do execution work, staffing, operations? Like who really are we? So that was something that through positioning, we were able to create one nose where no matter which offer made the most sense for somebody coming into our business, they would all go through one door. From a language perspective, from a sales process perspective, all of that is positioning. Otherwise, you're just confusing your audience. So first you have to make sure that things are clear, positioning. And once things are clear, then you grow your reputation, okay? That creates your authority. You want to be positioned as an expert, so be seen on certain platforms, be sharing credibility, have other people who have credibility share that credibility back to you, and that creates more trust in the market, okay? Growing your reputation and your brand. So checks here. Ask yourself, how do people know about you? And what do they know about you? And is what you want them to know, and is that what you want them to know and feel about you? So see what that is, and then is it what you want it to be? Okay, the next engine is your client experience. So the governing law here is deliver so well they never want to leave. So every single client that comes into your business, your team should be thinking, what do I need to do to have this person give us a 5-star review and referrals? So for our offboarding, we internally have that nicknamed RRR. That stands for review, renewal, and referral. So that's something that the client experience team is not done with that client until you have an RRR, review, renewal, referral. So at least one, ideally all 3, depending on the dynamics with the client. So your predictable outcomes here are predictable program, product, deliverables. So depending on the type of your business, whatever deliverable that is. Your predictable client activation, what's your onboarding process if you have an agency, or what's the delivery mechanism process if you have a product. Your predictable fulfillment experience, predictable client feedback and retention. People are saying the same things about you like clockwork. Predictable issue resolution expectations. So setting clear expectations, creating early wins, and having consistency. That's how to win for the client experience engine. Okay, so only one critical question here. So think of a client that you lost, should not have left, and ask yourself what broke first. Was it the onboarding? Was it delivery? Or is it the communication? So if you lost a client that you shouldn't have, I promise you what broke is somewhere in those 3 areas, and that's what you need to look at and to fix first. Fourth engine is operations, right? So how do you make the machine run without you? The governing law here is optimize until friction disappears. So just a little teaser. At the end, we're going to run through and have you think through of what engine is your strongest engine personally as a founder. And so that's something that my little trick here is which of the governing laws, just when you read it or you hear it, your whole body, your nervous system just goes, yes, that's amazing. For me, it's this one. I love operations, so optimizing until friction disappears, that is what makes me happy in life. So your predictable outcomes here are predictable execution, predictable foundation, predictable capacity, predictable resources, and predictable protection. So reminder here, tools don't fix broken flow. System alignment does. What do I mean by that? Can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, "Oh, this is the best tech stack possible. I need high level or I need ClickUp or whatever it is." Those are great platforms, but if you have a terrible process and internal system in your company, you can have the best tech stack in the world and it's not going to mean anything. So it's system alignment that's going to fix all of that. So that's everything in a nutshell with the operations engine. So question here is, what's one friction point that you've tolerated for too long because you didn't want to deal with it or didn't know how? The fifth and final engine is leadership. So as a founder, this is you. You own this engine until or if you ever grow big enough where you want to hire a CEO. Okay, so you own the success of this engine. The governing law here is develop until leaders at every level create more leaders. Leadership is a way of being, it's not a position title. So that's something that you need to be inspiring to create ownership, that your whole team loves to own what it is that they do. That is your job when you own the leadership engine. You are the stabilizer. Your entire team looks to you for where are we going? What we're aligning ourselves with the ship captain. What does that look like? The ship captain, the leadership engine owner is the North Star. Okay, you set the example for everything in your business. If things are off kilter, if there's something inconsistent with your team or your culture, you have to look at you. That is where everything is coming from, is the leadership engine. So your predictable outcomes here are predictable priorities, predictable culture experience, predictable hierarchy expectations, predictable performance, predictable impact generated. The essence of your whole business starts with leadership. All right, so one other thing is I want to give something more tangible for the leadership engine, and that's your core values. So your core values live in the leadership engine. So that's something that you as the leadership engine owner are responsible for setting. So core values are not just nice things to have on your website. They're things that they're a way to ask yourself, is this something that I should be doing for my business? What's the right answer for this decision? So when we create core values, we create something called a decision lens. So you create the core value first, and then you transition that into a decision lens so that when you're trying to figure out some tough questions, you look to your core values to figure out how to answer those, both you as a leader as well as anybody else in your business. So how I personally like to structure core values is a 2-word value with a really rich 1-sentence descriptor underneath. So these are 3 of our 5 core values for us as a company. And these are 4 and 5. So just as examples for how I like to structure core values here. Okay, so actually let me just, so when these are things that it's how you want people to show up. It's what are the things that mean the most? What should people expect when they come into your company, both your clients and your team members? So it's literally every single part of your business, including even your operations. So every single element of your business should be a reflection of your core values. Okay. All right. So where to start? So a quick audit. So I want you to place all 5 engines in the order of your strongest to weakest engine. So whatever that looks like. Because I want you to think, if you stepped away for a week, what would break first? Here are the engines again: revenue, brand, client experience, operations, and leadership. Here are the drivers underneath them. So for me, it's basically backwards, forwards is roughly my area of expertise. I'm the weakest on the revenue and brand side of things. That took a very long time in our business for those to come together. But the back half was where I enjoy being the most. So I grew my company backwards, but it is recommended to grow your company from forwards to backwards in order to have proper oxygen in your business. Otherwise, it is very expensive and difficult to get off the ground. But if you can get past that, it is more organized and you can scale through the latter parts of business faster. But that's only an if you break through that threshold. All right, so the hot seat question is, first, I want to cover what's top of mind for you right now. And then if you stepped away for a week, what would break?